Well, listen, we're going to start off the show with the only piece of news that's really happened this week, or at least the most major. Um, Last week we talked about Devontae Adams requesting a trade. No movement there. Sort of surprisingly, I feel like I feel like the
I would
Raiders are
again
kind of
this week.
slow rolling that hook. Yeah, I mean he's obviously never going to play another snap for the Raiders. It's just a matter of where he goes, and I'm just a little surprised that they haven't. I mean, they probably know what they're going to get at this point. But the big news this week, coming out of New York City, is that Jets head coach Robert Saleh has been relieved of his duties, apparently escorted out by security. Bobby Ray and I touched on how gross that was, that we knew that yesterday. Not a very nice thing to do for the man's reputation and career. More information has come out since then that it seems like, yes, Mike was in fact right in our group chat that Aaron Rodgers, because of a decision on the plane back from New York, this is the scoop
Well,
that I'm hearing. Aaron Rodgers, on the way back from New York, the coaching staff had a discussion and they decided they're not going to fire the offensive coordinator. What's his name? Harrington?
No, Nathaniel Hackett.
Hackett. There you go. Hackett, they were not going to fire him. They were going to relieve him of play calling duties for the next game. Obviously, we know about the relationship his West Coast offense and he as a human being has with Aaron Rodgers. Apparently, by the time late Monday morning rolled around, or I guess it would be late Tuesday morning rolled around, they were watching tape and Saleh was informed that he was no longer associated with the New York Jets organization. Bob, I heard a little bit from Ray yesterday about what he thought about all that. Now that we've basically confirmed that Aaron Rodgers is as big of a dill hole as we thought, what are your thoughts on the Saleh situation?
News to me. I didn't know that. Wow.
Heard it from a guy who heard it from a guy.
That's something.
He was also then on Pat McAfee. And I mean, I'd let you draw your own conclusions from that. I'd let you draw your own conclusions from that. But for me, he looked like a guy who was sort of stammering to lie about what happened. But again, I am in no way hiding my bias against that guy as both the former quarterback of my most despised team and someone whose ideologies and values do not align with mine whatsoever. So, we're skewing hatred towards Aaron Rodgers, but maybe you can shine some light on what's going on over there. He didn't have a good record.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, I wasn't surprised by the move when it happened. I'm more shocked by this Aaron Rodgers thing because only 2 weeks ago, it was a laughing Aaron Rodgers at a press conference, being like, oh, I got my first victory in Jets uniform, all this other stuff. And now all of a sudden he's forcing a coach out the door within 5 weeks. That's wild.
Look, their offense looks like
the offense looks definitely.
I don't know whose fault.
But Saleh's defense. That's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of those games we were looking at them, 10-9, 10-7.
Yeah.
Very we have a good defense, but not a good offense sort of vibes coming out of New York, which I think you could maybe sort of try to see out and just try to make corrections. I mean, it is a weird time to be firing a coach, isn't it? Right. It's a strange week for first coach fired. I feel like usually it takes longer. I haven't done the actual numbers on that, but just my vibes.
I mean, I think there was a thing that came out yesterday when the news dropped that it was the first time they've done this since the 70s. I think when Lou Holtz, legendary college coach, but it has
probably not the first time they should have, but yeah, fair enough.
Right. Yeah, but I'm saying, but this is not
really
this is not something. This is the norm,
surprising.
Right? They do surprising, right? So obviously they've had, from Al Rowe to Bill Parcells.
It's not that common of a practice. I'm sort of leaning across the league.
There's at least
the Bears
one a
have
year.
never done it.
Right.
There's at least one a year.
Sure.
But if you think about it, if there is certain franchises that just have a culture of not fucking doing that, the Bears have never done it. We've never ever once fired a coach midseason. So, I would take that for what it's worth. I know the Cowboys have. I'm pretty sure, right, Bob? I mean, they just seem like they would have. I can't think of
it's probably.
I can't think.
It may be something
maybe
that
not
happens
because Landry was the coach for so long, and it went Landry right to Jimmy Johnson, didn't it?
Yeah, and then Parcells, that there's no way you're firing Bill Parcells
Yeah.
midseason, right?
Didn't it go Landry right to Jimmy Johnson?
No,
I don't
I
know.
think so.
Yeah,
I mean,
Landry,
probably,
yeah,
dude.
went 1 and
Yeah.
15, and then that's what happened. But to speak more on what you just asked, like it's really, so we kind of touched to it toward the tail end of our show. But it was wild, like you said, to hear that information, unfold or come out saying that he wasn't allowed, to basically say goodbye to the team. It just shows obviously that, it's basically the team or the player that was running the asylum there. And
Or the
that
player.
should
The
not be.
player.
Yeah. Well, no, but it's. I mean, we say player, but I'm like, there was probably more involved than just that one player. Obviously, that player made the decision, because obviously you don't make that decision without speaking to that player. So obviously he had the final say. But it's wild. And once again, it's Nathan Nathaniel Hackett should be thanking his lucky stars, because the fact that um you was in Denver and your claim to fame was Aaron Rodgers. Um, the fact that you only have a job because he has a rapport with you, like that's another thing that's wild in itself. He'll never get another head coaching job in the NFL again, in my opinion. Regardless of what he does. So either way, to me they did Robert Saleh wrong. Once again, last year to me was a wash because with Rodgers getting hurt 4 plays into the season. To give him 5 games really doesn't make sense. If you thought they were going to be 5-0, then you're not really a fan of the New York Jets. Like there's no. Once again, as someone who was, like I said, been a New England fan his whole life, I have never seen the Jets dominate. Never. Once again, they had a few good years. So whether it was Seth Verdi, whether it was a Favre, my personal favorite guy out of the bunch was Chad Pennington. I thought he was really good there.
Mark Sanchez.
And then they had a couple of years. Mark Sanchez, you know what I'm saying? So it's like they've had certain stints with guys, but never continued success. So I don't know where Woody Johnson was coming from with making the statement he made, like, oh, like our expectations were high. Well, they should be high coming into the season, but you guys they haven't won since 1969. Like, let Lyndon B. Johnson was still in office. Like, why? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Neil Armstrong just walked on the moon. Like, it's unbelievable what had just happened. When they last won. So I don't know, man. It's just like, my dad had an afro. Like, there's a lot of things that that's taken place since they've won. So I just don't know where this newfound expectation is coming from. And like you guys said, like Aaron Rodgers has not been that guy the last few years. So for them not to at least give it 10 or 11 games, like after game 10, if he was like, look, we're 5-5, we want to let you go. Okay, that'd be more justifiable. But 2-3, when you're really just a game out the division, it's pretty comical to me. But hey, that's what the Jets do.
Yeah. Wade Phillips.
Wade
Phillips.
Yeah.
Started in 2010 after starting 1-7. So they gave him at least.
Okay, yeah, that's different. That's different. That's different. Yeah,
I do think it was a little soon. And one win. I mean, it's just different. I feel like the Jets have looked like they could win games at times. So yeah, I mean, I think it was a surprise all around, especially how it was handled. And quite frankly, I echo your sentiments, Ray, that it's still the fucking Jets, dude. A lot of people were super high on them in the offseason, and I was just kind of like, I'll believe it when I see it.
That loss wasn't Saleh's fault. That was Aaron Rodgers.